Thank you so much, JP. I will say, what a time it is to be right here, right now. Can you imagine, I'm standing in front of you 40 years after graduating from the United States Military Academy at West Point. And I'm joined on stage by a United States Naval Academy graduate from 1967. And on this Saturday, Army will defeat Navy in Baltimore Stadium. I just had to start off with that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to speak with you today. And as you can see, I'd like to have an informal engagement because lecturing is just a lost art. It's no longer really wanted. What we want to do is engage with people. So I'll try to get through with my prepared remarks and then ask for your questions because it's so important to figure out what you want to know based on what I've just told you in my prepared comments. Okay. So we'll go off with that. Agreed? And you'll think of something to say so that when I say, who has my first question, it's not like dead air. We agree? All right, I like that. So when I look around the room, I see leaders who shoulder the same challenge that I've spent most of my career wrestling with. How to move organizations, especially large mission-critical ones, into the future without breaking the things that still work today. Now, I've spent my life in environments where transformation wasn't a buzzword, it was survival. Whether it was in the Army, building systems more logical than physical, at the National Reconnaissance Office, modernizing constellations of intelligence satellites, or at the United States Patent and Trademark Office, guiding an agency that's responsible for protecting American innovation. The mission was always the same. Take systems that have been good for decades and reshape them for decades more. And here's the truth I've learned over and over again. Modernization is not about keeping up with the trends. It's not about chasing the shiny object. It's about being ready when the storm comes. And believe me, the storm is coming. Every organization, public or private, eventually hits the same wall. Your legacy systems have carried you faithfully for years, but now they're slowing down. And they're slowing down more than they're supporting you. They're holding on, but they can't keep up with what the future is asking of them. So when I joined the USPTO, our systems were exactly that. Reliable, proven, and exhausted. They had served the American innovation engine very well, but the pace of innovation, the scale of data, the expectations of the public, these were all outpacing what those systems were designed to handle. The problem wasn't that they were outdated. The problem was that they were no longer supported the vision of the future we needed to pursue. Legacy systems weren't the enemy. Standing still was the enemy. That's why CIOs, whether in federal agencies, Fortune 100 companies, healthcare systems, or startups, all agree on one foundational truth. If you're not modernizing, you're falling behind. Now, when people talk about modernization, they often jump straight into the technology. Cloud, APIs, zero trust, DevSecOps, AI. But every CIO in this room knows the secret. The real battle isn't technology. It's culture. Technology is the easy part. People, that's where things get interesting. Because when you try to modernize an organization, you're not upgrading machines, you're upgrading mindsets. You're asking people to trust something new over something familiar. You're asking teams who have built their careers on old systems to embrace systems that they don't yet know. You're asking leaders who have been rewarded for stability to suddenly champion risk. I saw this everywhere at the USPTO. Engineers who worried that new tools would slow them down. Examiners worried that AI would replace their judgment. Program managers worried that cloud migrations would break their workloads. And CIOs everywhere hear the same things. What if it fails? What if the new system is worse? What changed? What works? Why take the risk? But leadership is not about avoiding risk. It's about managing it. It's about helping people see that the risk of staying still is far greater than the risk of moving forward. I'll pause here also to say one of the tenets of Army philosophy is, yes, you can defend in depth, but eventually in a defensive position, you will die. You need to take the offense and attack if you want to survive. Culture change is the hardest, slowest, but most essential part of modernization. Because without cultural modernization, technology modernization never lasts. Let me say something clearly. AI without cloud-ready architecture is decoration, not transformation. When we moved USPTOs to cloud-based native architectures, it wasn't because it was trendy. It was because the old system simply could not bend anymore. The storm was coming. The data volumes were exploding. Applicant expectations were rising. Cyber threats were intensifying. We needed resiliency. We needed scale. We needed a foundation that could flex. Every CIO I speak with recognizes the same truth. The future belongs to organizations that treat the cloud not as a destination, but as a capability. Cloud is not something you move to. Cloud is something you build upon. And once your systems are elastic, secure, modular, and service-based, then AI becomes possible. Then innovation becomes sustainable. Then modernization becomes continuous instead of episodic. Now let's talk about AI. The star of today's headlines, the spark of countless fears, and the reason many people think CIOs don't sleep anymore. Here's the truth. AI is not magic. It's a tool, a force multiplier, a capability, but not a cure. At a USPTO, we didn't adopt AI to impress anyone. We adopted AI because it solved real problems. Huge volumes of prior art to search, growing numbers of complex patent applications, examiners needing clearer, faster insights, image classifications that no human could do at scale. AI shines in places where humans shouldn't be spending precious time. AI can read millions of documents, but it cannot replace judgment. AI can classify images, but it cannot understand intent. AI can surface patterns, but it cannot weigh fairness, logic, ethics, and nuance. AI augments the human mind. It doesn't replace it. And here's another one. I want to stop calling it artificial intelligence and just say augmented intelligence, because that's all it is. It's helping you out. It's a tool, just like computers should be. And CIOs overwhelmingly agree on this point. The organizations that win with AI will be the ones who use it to elevate their people, not sideline them, because AI gives workers the greatest gift of all, time. Time to think, time to analyze, time to innovate, time to solve real problems instead of wrestling with tedious ones. This is why CIOs see AI not as a threat, but as the next evolution of knowledge work. Not a replacement, an exoskeleton of the mind. But, and this is a big but, AI is useless without the right data. Dirty data, siloed data, unsecured data, unmappable data, ungoverned data. AI amplifies whatever foundation it sits upon. If the foundation is strong, AI accelerates progress. If the foundation is weak, AI accelerates chaos. That's why CIOs see AI as inseparable from modernization, not a standalone initiative. You can't bolt AI onto a legacy stack and expect transformation. You'll get sparks, but no fire. AI doesn't just require code. AI requires trust. And trust isn't something you deploy. It's something you earn. It's something you build. At USPTO, we spent as much time preparing people for AI as we did preparing AI for people. We held demos. We held workshops. We tested, we broke, we fixed, we tested again. We proved step by step that AI wasn't replacing anyone. It was making them better at what they do best. Here's something every CIO knows, but not every organization realizes. If your people don't trust AI, they won't use AI. And if AI isn't used, it doesn't matter how beautiful the model is, or how elegant the architecture is, or how many contractors swear it works. Trust is the engine. Culture is the fuel. And leadership is the steering wheel. Now, let me address something uniquely important in the federal government, but relevant in every large enterprise, namely contracting. Technology evolves faster than any procurement process. That's not criticism, it's physics. If a contract is too rigid, by the time it's awarded, the technology it describes is already obsolete. And CIOs everywhere live in that tension. How do we buy innovation using processes designed to minimize risk? Here's what we learned. Contracts must breathe. They must allow discovery. They must allow changes in direction. They must account for the unknowns. They must empower partners to innovate instead of comply their way into mediocrity. And I want to say that again. Most contracts are written to comply into mediocrity. It's really sad. If we cage innovation with overly specific requirements, we don't get innovation. We get stagnation with documentation. CIOs are increasingly pushing for adaptable contracts, modular awards, agile delivery, outcome-based requirements, shorter cycles, and continuous integration of lessons learned. Because when the world changes while the contract is being drafted, the technology changes again when it's being reviewed, and then it changes twice more when it's being executed. Flexible contracting is not just a procurement preference, it is a modernization necessity. So, what do the CIOs think about the future? What is the outlook for the next 5, 10, 20 years? Here's what I hear consistently from CIOs across all sectors. Number one, cloud native is inevitable. Not cloud hosted, not lift and shift, but cloud native. Architectures that scale, flex, and adapt and evolve. Number two, AI will be everywhere. AI won't be a side project. It will quietly power everything. Workflows, search, fraud detection, cyber defense, routing, logistics, analysis, everything. Because in my definition, AI is just an automation tool. And if you're not using it, you're not automating. Number three, data will be the currency of innovation. Good data means good AI. Bad data means bad AI. CIOs know the health of their data today predicts the strength of their mission tomorrow. Number four, talent will determine mission success. AI engineers, data scientists, cyber defenders, these are tomorrow's national assets. Number five, leadership will matter more than technology because technology changes fast, but people change slowly. The world is moving, whether we move with it or not. The storm is coming, whether we prepare or not. The future is being shaped, whether we participate or not. AI is here. Cloud is here. Modernization is no longer optional. And CIOs, perhaps more than anyone else, understand that we stand at a crossroads. Do we cling to what is familiar, or do we build what is necessary? The duty falls on us right now and today to build systems that bend but do not break, to create contracts that flex, to nurture cultures that innovate, to embed AI that is trustworthy, explainable, secure, and aligned to the mission. Because technology must serve people, not overshadow them, not replace them, serve them. So, if we as CIOs, the technologists, the builders, the architects, do our work well, then years from now when someone asks how this generation met the storm, the answer is going to be simple. We met it head on. We modernized. We built with courage, and we did not break. And I'll end with something I love to remind people. The last 4 letters of the word American are I-C-A-N, I can. So I'll leave you with a question, like, what can you do? What will you build? And what future will you choose? And in saying that, too, I'm going to ask for questions coming up here. I actually give a little poker chip coin to my esteemed colleagues. And on one side, it says, culture shift with the American flag, and it says American. It's got I can. And on the other side, it says ABC, because in the Army, we have to keep it simple. ABC. Act now, be bold, and create new. And with that, I'll take my first question. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was terrific. Thank you very much. Question here is on being bold, moving forward, but keeping it secure. And so how do you wind up with the, everything from Salt Typhoon to myriad other threats, keep that security in there while you move forward innovatively?
So your foundation not only needs to be stable, but it needs to be secure. One of the big things about AI is people think it's the Wild West and just guns off, everybody go for it. That cannot be in a disciplined software engineering environment. You need to have the same type of discipline that we have in the intelligence realm. And in intelligence, we have a concept of once it goes in, once the data is in, it never comes out. And we don't have that say, oh, well, you got to train the model, you got to do that. No, you don't. You got to keep it inside. Now, that's for the NSA. That is for other intelligence agencies. Sometimes you actually do want to collaborate and have those models learn on other things. And in those cases, you have a disciplined way to give the training data back and forth. We did that a lot with the other patent offices around the world, especially the UK. We tried to explain how image classification can be shared across a number of worldwide assets. And in fact, I'll give kudos to the Australian Trademark Office, who actually has some of the most impressive technology for digital asset classification, specifically with images. They're awesome. Did I answer your question?
Thank you very much. We had a question over here.
My question is about governance. And one part of governance is reporting. So we have this panoply of C-suite people like CIO, CTO, COO, CDAO, CISO. And so now, do we need a CAIO? And if we need such a position, should this person report directly to the CEO? So as part of AI not being inseparable from IT modernization, or should they report to the CIO or somebody else?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great question, because it goes to organizational structure. How do we organize around a mission? And organizing around a mission should have nothing to do with the tools that you're organizing for. It should only be about the mission. All right, what did I do at the PTO? I registered trademarks and I awarded patents. That's it. We don't need a chief AI officer. It's a role, additional duty as required, but it's not a position. There's the tendency to just staff up with all this extra weight. And all you'll find that if you put too much weight in your organizational structure, it'll collapse under its own weight. So I always say innovate by going small, because small teams do much better to show results and outcomes than large bureaucratic committees. And I know all the the jokes and so forth about, management by committee and a huge bureaucracy. Sometimes you need that, but most of the time you don't. Do not deliberate about using AI. Use it. Be secure and safe, but do it. Stop talking about it and do it. Did that answer your question? Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for the talk. I'm asking a question for the benefit of the non-gray-haired crowd in here, based in no small part on personal experience working in the government for decades. At some point, the under 30 crowd will find themselves in a position where they know what needs to happen with the AI. They will be reporting to a bureaucracy that is going to be largely gray-haired and over 50 who are just happy with the way things are. Based on your experiences at USPTO, what tactic or managerial finesse would you recommend that the non-gray-haired crowd use to sort of bring the gray-haired crowd around? Because I don't know that I ever figured out the answer to that.
Thank you so much. I didn't pay him. I didn't, I swear. The fact is that's a leadership question about inclusion, especially for the diversity of ideas. Because as you just pointed out, there's the penchant for the young, the rebels. We got to get it done. Go, go, go. Then you got the gray hair sitting back. Oh, we tried that 10 years ago. It didn't really work that well. Well, maybe that's the time for it. So how did I do that within my realm? And I will say that the government is rife for trying new ideas and innovation. There is latent capacity within the federal core, especially those 30 to 35-year-olds. My God, they want a chance to really shine. Give them that chance. How to do that? Well, in many of the idea brainstorming sessions that I've had, I always give somebody the black hat. And what does that mean? When you have a bunch of people get together and the group dynamics are such that everybody knows what this guy's going to say, what she's going to say, oh yeah, Jimmy John, he always is like that. He's crazy. But what you do is you give the opportunity, you give the black hat to somebody else, and all of a sudden they're supposed to give the devil's advocate side. They're supposed to present things that are off base and dynamic, that challenge the status quo. And you wouldn't believe some of the gray hairs who finally feel relieved, like, okay, maybe this is the time I always wanted to try this. Then also the rebels are like, well, wait a second, if this rests with me, how am I going to have the discipline in order to get this done? So giving that black hat to somebody to play a role that might be outside their group dynamics is really key to that leadership and getting different ideas within the information core.
Yeah, and I would reiterate, that person, that gray-haired person who wants things to change is there. The effort for the non-gray-haired people is, you have to take some time and find that person. They are not going to just surface and volunteer themselves, obviously.
There's another thing that I did too. I took anonymous ideas and we sat around the table as a leadership team and we said, which ones do we post out there for feedback? Because that all of a sudden shows the person who submitted it anonymously that we're really listening. And the other part is, it might be a good idea and we didn't know. The biggest fallacy for any leader or CIO to think about is that they have the answer. Huh? I hired all you guys to have the answer. I don't have the answer. I'm going to make sure I create the environment for which those answers optimize our mission delivery. I don't have the answers. Don't look to me. I'm looking at you. That's why I hired you. Hope that helps.
Thanks for the great insights, definitely. I mean, you talked about some of the global aspects also of AI, global applications. What do you think in terms of global AI collaboration? What are the possibilities and how can we best achieve them, say through AI literacy or something like that? Would you please comment on that?
Yeah, sure. We're experiencing it right now. There's no need to inculcate or create a place because it's happening. We are in a current race. And races and competition always bring out the best and the worst of people. So globally, we need to compete on a global scale for our AI models. And the problem is, I believe personally that a lot of this development is stored in the top companies, the top tech companies, and it needs to be diffused. And that's why I joined USAI. What do you think we do? We actually are creating a cyber secure platform upon which people can modernize their architectures. We have a big product called Archangel, which actually provides the ability for continuous authority to operate. Huh? That was the worst thing as a CIO. You're looking at all these documents that you have to sign to attest that you can operate this thing securely, and everything's 2 months old, and you don't know whether it's been vulnerable or not. So what I think needs to happen is more competition from startups and from the mid-sized market, not getting, actually providing that incentive for people out in the global market. Because right now, China is doing a lot of things. Believe it or not, the European base, I think it's held back by their own laws, but they have a lot of innovation too. And I just mentioned Australia. You got to be careful. Australia might come from behind and just take us over. It's great. I love that, right? So you see the different competition, and we need to promote that more within our, come on, let's compete. Bring out the best of everybody, and making sure you don't have the worst behavior, like you still have that discipline. I think that's it.
It is, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.